Bank with an accident 24 east of Browns Ferry right now. Wilcoxon Tunnel Boulevard, an accident 75 north at the 153. I got another one on 75 north of Lee Highway around the 13-mile marker. Injuries. They did have both one lane blocked. They have both been reopened in the last few minutes, but we're backed up on 75 north because of all that. In fact, let me get a quick peek at that. I can see that on the TDOT cameras. It's really affecting 75 at the 12.4 northbound and 75 at Ooltewah as well, the 11-mile marker. All of those pretty backed up right now. But again, both lanes are just open there by Chattanooga Police. EPB Fiber Optics, helping small business do big business. Schedule a free tech audit. Let EPB create a custom solution designed for your business and budget. 648-1500 the number for EPB Fiber Optics. Mike Wood, the Traffic Center, Hot News Talk Radio here at AM 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
5:06 here at Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Russell. Here's the weather. 84 degrees right now here in the Chattanooga area, and the heat index is actually not that bad because it actually feels like it's 84 degrees. We have just a tad bit of wind, under 10 miles per hour, nothing too major. Tonight's supposed to get down to a chilly for our season anyway, 66 degrees and clear. Saturday, 90 degrees and sunny, and Sunday, 92 degrees and sunny, and Monday, 91, and that's a continuing trend throughout the rest of next week. On Thursday, there's a 40% chance of storms. Of course, that's next Thursday, and that's pretty far into the future, so we'll keep an eye on that and make sure that it actually, stays that way. But we'll let you know about the weather here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. That's a weather report from us here at the Weather Center at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and hotnewstalkradio.com. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download that TuneIn Radio app for your smartphone and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is also on Twitter, where you report the world of signs. It's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Police have pulled a man from a burning house in Lafayette. Corporal Nick Terry and Officer Dusty Coker are members of the Lafayette Police Department. They were on patrol early Friday morning when they noticed smoke coming from a house at 11 Simmons Street. Once on the scene, the officers determined that there was somebody inside, and they sprung into action. One grabbed a fire extinguisher from his patrol car to break through a window, and the other worked to get through the door of the 900-square-foot home. According to Lafayette Fire Chief Robert Busby Jr., the officers found the 47-year-old homeowner on the floor face down. After the officers pulled him to safety, he was taken to a local hospital with heat injuries, and he was responsive, but his condition has not been released. And Busby came out with a statement saying, "Our guys are all professionals, and most of them are cross-trained," he says. "They'll tell you they're doing just what anyone else should do, but they really went above and beyond." The cause of the fire has been ruled to be accidental. Investigators believe it likely started in a chair, although they are not sure, at least we aren't sure, what the exact cause of it was. But as soon as we find out, of course, we'll let you know right here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. The Chattanooga Police Department officer who was wounded during the shooting during the terrorist attack on Thursday, July the 16th, has a 7-year-old Amanda Giovingo who worked for 3 full days out in the hot summer temperatures selling lemonade to help raise money for that officer, Dennis Pettigo Jr., and the families of the 5 fallen heroes as well. She says that they had believe it was lemonade and tea in a cooler at the bottom of their driveway and big signs. According to Amanda Giovingo, she said that they were really sorry for the loss of the families who lost family members in the shooting there. And Pettigo did meet with the woman and thanked her. And Pettigo was wounded on July the 16th, and the shooting had claimed the lives of 4 U.S. Marines and a U.S. Navy sailor, and he was working traffic as part of the funeral procession the day of the shooting when he heard the call of an active shooter that went out over the radio. Without hesitation, he went over to the shooting scene on Amnicola. Pettigo then suffered a demobilizing gunshot wound to his ankle during the fight. Fellow officers then dragged him from under the gunfire to safety, and he can't put his weight on that foot for at least 2 more months. So they're looking at 6 months to a year before he can ever walk again, according to Officer Pettigo. So he is recovering, though, as of yet, and it looks like he will make a full recovery, assuming that nothing goes wrong with that, but it doesn't appear that anything will. The Coast Guard has decided to suspend a search for missing teens at Sunset. However, the Coast Guard Captain Mark Fetter stressed that the case is not yet closed, saying that crews would go out again if something was found that could possibly be linked to the Florida teenagers Austin Stefanos and Perry Cohen. And Fedor expressed the heartfelt condolences and said that the case was excruciating and gut-wrenching, saying, "I know the statistics will not ease the pain of the families, but I hope at some point in the future they can take solace in the fact that hundreds of people searched thousands of miles because we were committed to finding Austin and Perry," Fedor said. The teens vanished last Friday after taking a 19-foot single-engine boat into the waters off of Jupiter, Florida for a fishing expedition. The boat was found 67 miles east of Ponce de Leon Inlet in Florida on Sunday. The Coast Guard has recovered nearly 50,000 square nautical miles and a stretch that extended from the shore of Jupiter to 270 miles east of Savannah, Georgia. The boys' families say that they intend to continue a private search even after the Coast Guard halts its efforts. The teens have been described as experienced fishermen who spend a lot of their free time at sea, and they have gone missing, and the Coast Guard is going to suspend the search for those missing teens at Sunset today. A Marion County man is facing federal gun charges, and he's facing federal weapons charges after a search warrant was executed at his residence at 1305 Hickory Avenue in South Pittsburgh. The charge was brought against Edward McKissick. Police went to the residence on March the 11th to execute an arrest warrant, and they found the front door ajar and McKissick asleep. Officers said that they smelled and observed marijuana in plain view. A search turned up 7 pounds of marijuana, 15 grams of powdered cocaine, 117 Xanax tablets, 60 pounds or rounds of Winchester 9mm ammunition, 24 rounds of NCDP ammunition, and 3 rounds of Remington 9mm ammunition, and a bullet-resistant vest. Agents said that McKissick has a felony drug conviction in Marion County and a federal conviction for acting as an accessory after the fact to an armed bank robbery in Pennsylvania. He was prohibited from being around guns or ammunition, and it appears that they found both at his location. Red Cross, volunteer for the Red Cross, apparently used credit cards intended for disaster victims, and he used them for his own personal gain, she used them for her own personal gain, according to these allegations. Kimberly A. Queen has been sentenced to serve 2 years, but she did not self-report on June the 19th, as ordered by Judge Curtis Collier. The new charge is failure to appear. Ms. Queen has since been taken into custody and was ordered to be detained by federal magistrate Susan K. Lee. She was a volunteer for the Monroe County Red Cross chapter in early 2012 when an audit turned up several irregularities. Ms. Queen confessed to withdrawing funds from local ATMs in Monroe and McMinn counties in the name of the Red Cross. Ms. Queen had been ordered to submit a money order to the federal government for $28,275 to cover the losses. A young man who was involved in an incident that led to a murder has gotten a diversion and has gotten praise as well for testifying against co-defendants. Criminal court judge Barry Steelman said that a conviction for facilitation of an aggravated robbery, can be expunged if Dustin Hayes gets in no further trouble for 6 years. The judge said we wouldn't be dealing with 40 shootings a year in Chattanooga if people would come forward, do the right thing, and then tell the truth. He said the state likely would not have gotten convictions against Ronald Cosper and Devontae Stoudemire in the death of small-time marijuana dealer Steve Mosley in 2012 without the cooperation of Hayes, who drove the pair to the scene of the shooting. Cosper was convicted of murder and is now serving a life sentence. Stoudemire got 15 years to be served at 100%. Judge Steelman praised Hayes, who finished Hickson High School despite being homeless at one time, for his courage and integrity. He added, "I fear that too often in this community, murderers go unpunished because people will not come forward." Judge Steelman noted that the nickname for Stoudemire is White Chalk. He said that referred to the chalk put down by investigators at murder scenes. Stoudemire was charged with a prior murder, but it was dismissed. The sentencing hearing included testimony by a former Hickson High School teacher who started making sandwiches for Hayes when she learned that he was homeless. Hayes said that he and his drug addict mother lived in an abandoned house after his grandmother kicked the mother out. So now he's gotten a diversion, and if he gets in no more trouble for 6 years, then he'll be clear of charges and he'll be expunged. 24 people have been charged in TennCare fraud in a statewide roundup. The suspects are charged in various counties on numerous TennCare fraud charges, including underreporting income, claiming living out of state, failure to disclose resource information, and transferring property in order to qualify for TennCare, doctor shopping, presenting forged prescriptions, or selling prescriptions, all received using TennCare benefits. The Office of the Inspector Inspector General conducted a statewide roundup that concluded on Thursday, with special agents fanning out across the state to crack down on those who had an outstanding warrant for TennCare fraud. The roundup is part of a new approach to take people into custody soon after an indictment by a grand jury and to locate and arrest fugitives. And so the Office of the Inspector General special agent teams were positioned in all 3 grand divisions in the state, being East, Middle, and West, and they had a list of individuals wanted, along with identifying information and search warrants and arrest warrants. The toughest task was finding the people, as they were under different addresses and actually had multiple addresses as well. A new question is being asked, which is, could legal opinion affect the carrying of weapons at Riverbend? An attorney general's opinion says that private organizations can't prevent licensed handgun permit holders from taking those weapons into events that the groups operate if they're at public parks. The Tennessean reports that the opinion is said under a new state law that local governments cannot prohibit permit holders from taking handguns to parks and therefore can't delegate the authority to anyone else. Organizers of events at Nashville's new Ascend Amphitheater and next year's Memphis in May celebration have told the Tennessean that they plan to ban firearms. But the Attorney General's opinion Wednesday seems to say that they are not allowed to ban guns carried by the legally licensed permit holders. Senate Democratic leader Lee Harris of Memphis, who opposed the new law and requested the opinion, said that he's speaking to others about the opinion and believes that it could have negative implications across the state. The new Ascend Amphitheater banned guns at Thursday's opening concert by Eric Church. The Riverbend Festival and Nightfall Concert Series are both events falling under the umbrella of events operated by private groups in public places. And so the Riverbend 2015 policy statement says that pets, skateboards, scooters, bicycles, rollerblades, laser pointers, or weapons of any kind are not allowed at the Riverbend Festival. It does not give a clear determination of what a weapon is either, so it's not clear if they would determine a folding utility knife perhaps as a weapon, or a sporting utility of some sort as a weapon. It's not really clear what a weapon is defined as, so it can be assumed that would be at the discretion of a park official or an official with Riverbend. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is also on Twitter, where you report the world decides. It's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click on the half off link for great deals. Hot News Talk Radio is saving you money. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are looking at the weather right now, where it's about 84 degrees here in the Chattanooga area. It's supposed to get down to 66 tonight. Saturday, 90 degrees and sunny. Sunday, 92 degrees and sunny. And into next week, it looks like temperatures are going to be in the 90s up until Thursday of next week, where we have a 40% chance of storms both in the day and in the night. And it's supposed to be 88 for the high on that day. So it's going to be upping our humidity levels thanks to the extra rain. But, you know, we have to get rain at some point, I suppose. But Thursday next week is when it appears that we are going to be getting rain. That's your weather update from us here at the Weather Center here at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and, of course, hotnewstalkradio.com. And you can also go to the Hot News Talk Radio page on YouTube, and you can check us out there live streaming on YouTube, and you can watch the shows, and you can watch recorded shows as well at Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube. A car containing William Moxley and Timothy Wilson stopped at exit 155 in Marion County, according to the Highway Patrol. When Paulding County Sheriff's deputies got to the house early Thursday morning, they also discovered that Timothy Wilson had vanished. So what happened was William Moxley was last seen at his family home off of Lake Swan Court in Hiram, Georgia on Wednesday night at around 11. And then police found out that Timothy Wilson had also vanished. Zachary Stahl, who's a Paulding County resident, said that from what he heard, he was a guest at the home. And in the night that they had left sometime, at that night, they had left for some time. So Wilson is a native of Winchester, Tennessee, and he was driving a Chevy Cobalt when investigators initiated a traffic stop at exit 155 in Marion County. Zachary Stahl said that once they got there, they were pulling into a gas station. And so they found out that it was actually William Moxley who was inside that car. 12-year-old Moxley was then taken by the Georgia State Patrol, and he was unharmed. Ranchhad Chabhari, who's at Cancu's at exit 155, said that he's so thankful for the police and he hopes that the boy is okay. Wilson was apprehended by Tennessee Highway Patrol. The white Chevy Cobalt, which was reported missing, was towed away as well. A high-profile social media campaign, as well as a Levi's call, which is Georgia's version of an Amber Alert, were issued throughout the morning. The GBI, the FBI, and the U.S. Marshal Service were all involved in returning the 12-year-old to his Georgia home. So William Moxley is now back where he belongs with his parents. Search efforts are continuing for a man from Cleveland, a teenager from Cleveland who went missing in a mountainous desert of southern Colorado, and crews have yet to find any traces of him so far. A recent post on the Find Joe Keller Facebook page read, "Police have called off the search, but it has since been updated to reflect the opposite. The search is continuing today," saying, "We pulled in search teams from other areas of the state to help today, and the sheriff is planning search efforts to continue through the weekend," says Public Information Officer Linda Smith, who talked to WRCB, or rather WDEF News 12 on the phone. Last Thursday, Joe Keller, who's 19, of Cleveland, Tennessee, was reported missing after he became separated from his friends that he was running with. They were on vacation in a rugged high desert and mountainous area of Conejos County over in Colorado. Since last Friday, hundreds of people have been searching on foot and by horseback for Keller, while a rescue helicopter and plane searched by air. So far, no clues have turned up. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is also on Twitter, where you report the world decides. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Looking at the temperature right now, it's about 84 degrees, 66 for tonight, and 90 for tomorrow. This is Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If you have the DT, shit, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and get 10% off.
Surgery does not have to be financially painful. Hi, I'm Surgical Dr. David Redd, and I'd like to invite you to my walk-in surgery clinic in North Shore. Quick Surge brings you immediate relief from moles, skin tags, maybe a laceration. Quick Surge. You walk in, fill out a mini form, I numb the area I'll treat, and before you know it, you're on your way home. Do I take insurance? No, because I take cash customers. I have super low and fixed prices. Credit card, check, or cash. Uninsured? Member of the working financially disadvantaged? Choose Quick Surge. I publish prices online. No murk, just sunshine. Hassle-free, pain-free. Love the idea of a personal relationship with a doctor? Drop in with a nasty cut from work. Quick Surge. I'll take care of you. Quick Surge in the Public Center on the North Shore. No insurance hassles with Quick Surge. The national medical system is dysfunctional, overpriced, very alienating. I'm part of the solution, and so are you. Come on home. QuickSurge.com. QuickSurg. Relief.
Hi, this is your computer speaking. I don't feel so well. It's like I've come down with a bug, and I'm getting slower.
Affordable Computers. We fix sick computers. Your hometown guys at Affordable Computers will repair your PC in half the time of the big boys at an affordable price. No tricks, no gimmicks, no computer speak technobabble. Just good, quick, and courteous affordable service and repairs. Want to affordably supercharge your PC? Affordable Computers on Highway 58. Affordable Computers hand builds all desktops in-house. If you're looking for a better-than-new refurb laptop, $150 will get you a Dell or another name brand at Affordable Computers. Affordable Computers, Highway 58, between Arby's and Taco Bell. Also Fort O, Battlefield Parkway near Holcomb's. Affordable Computers, we service what we sell. Call 499-1975. That's 499-1975.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm feeling great. Supercharged.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
524 here at Hot News Talk Radio. Here's Mike Wood with Hot News Talk Radio's Fast Traffic Now.
Russell, thank you so much. Good afternoon. We are still working that accident with the injury, 75 northbound Lee Highway, right through there, the 13.2 mile marker. Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, Fire Department, everybody still on scene of that one. 75 north at 153, an accident. Wilcoxon Tunnel Boulevard, 24 eastbound at Browns Ferry, 1 in East Ridge on Ringo Road, right in front of the SunTrust Bank location right now. As well. Oh, and let me remind you about Nightfall coming up again tonight. In fact, it started just a few minutes ago at 5 o'clock. Well, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. It starts at 5:30. Nightfall, 5:30 till 11. Market 10 to 8. And that's closed along with M.L. King, Broad to Georgia Avenue downtown. Mike Wood, good afternoon. The Traffic Center, of course. Hot News Talk Radio at AM 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
525 here at Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Russell, and here's the weather. We're looking at right now about temperatures of around 84 degrees here in the Chattanooga area. It's not nearly as warm as it was yesterday, and probably not going to be getting down to as cool as it is today anytime soon, unfortunately. 66 for tonight. Tomorrow, 90 is the high with 67 for the low. Sunday, 92 is the high. And into next week, we're seeing highs in the lower 80s, or rather lower 90s and upper 80s, I should say. Thursday, it's getting down to around 88 for the high with a 40% chance of rain, which is, of course, going to bring the humidity levels up, which is going to make it feel hotter anyway. That's your weather update from us here at the Weather Center at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com. In Sarasota, Florida, a resident has started a petition asking the president to honor the men who fired their personal weapons at a lone gunman who attacked 2 military sites in Chattanooga on July the 16th. The petition, which has 578 signatures so far, asks the president to give the men who fired medals of bravery for saving lives during the attack. Investigators with the FBI confirmed that at least one service member inside the U.S. Naval and Marine Reserve Center on Anacola Highway did use a personal weapon to fire on Muhammad Yusuf Abdulaziz, who is a 24-year-old who approached the building armed with a rifle and handgun 2 weeks ago. The attack sparked a national debate about whether military personnel should be armed in military buildings on United States soil. Currently, the Department of Defense regulations prohibit most service members, although not all, from being armed in the U.S., and including most personnel, I should say, at reserves and recruiting centers like the one that Abdulaziz targeted in Chattanooga. Only service members who are acting as military police or guards are allowed to carry weapons. But in the days following the attacks, politicians and citizens immediately called for a change in policy to allow such service members to be armed. Governor Bill Haslam ordered the state's National Guard storefront centers to temporarily relocate into armories 6 days after the shooting, according to these reports. And on a military note, U.S. Marines who were flying with unlicensed arms to Ukraine were detained in Vienna and sent home. 9 American Marines have now been arrested in Vienna's airport for carrying assault rifles and handguns on board a commercial airliner without any sort of proper clearance. They were on their way to Ukraine to take part in exercise Saber Guardian that began on July the 20th. The incident took place on July the 19th, but was only reported to the media about 2 weeks later. The servicemen traveling from Alaska reportedly had problems with a connecting flight at Vienna's Schwechat airport, I believe is how you say, and had to leave the transit area to rebook. Austrian Defense Ministry spokesperson Colonel Michael Bauer said that they were traveling on commercial flights. And while they were having their luggage scanned, airport security spotted M16 assault rifles and pistols in their travel bags. The servicemen had no permits allowing them to carry any sort of weaponry. Austrian police then arrested the Marines, who were then expelled from the country along with their weapons on a return flight bound for Washington. The incident took place accidentally, according to the U.S. European Command spokesperson David Westover, which told the news outlet Sputnik that by unintentional oversight, the necessary clearances required for transiting Austria were not properly processed prior to their departure. The Austrian authorities were very helpful in resolving this issue, the spokesman said, adding that the Marines have since returned to their home duty station in Alaska. The U.S. European Command and the U.S. Embassy in Vienna are grateful for the support of the Austrian government to coordinate the onward movement of 9 U.S. Marines last week, Westover said. Karen Kwiatkowski is a retired U.S. Air Force lieutenant colonel, and she told URT that the soldiers had not declared them on purpose, although it's unclear if that is the case. The fact that the U.S. State Department attempted to get permits retrospectively immediately after the incident indicates that this is not how it's supposed to be done, she claims. A passenger on U.S. domestic flights has to declare any weapons in his luggage, she pointed out. So the soldiers probably did not declare them on purpose, she says, thinking that they could get away with it, according to her, because they needed their weapons and could potentially get in trouble if they arrived in Ukraine without any arms. She said that alternatively, they figured that they would be refused and would not be able to get there anyway. She added that technically this is a violation of not just the airline policy, but also of potentially international law. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry said that earlier in July, the international military exercises Saber Guardian/Rapid Trident 2015, the U.S. soldiers were going to take part in, began on July the 20th and were planned to last through July the 31st, saying that they are the biggest military war games to be held in Ukraine in 2015, with over 1,800 troops from 18 countries participating. And so those 9 Marines have now been sent back home, and they're not going to be taking part in any of those exercises in Ukraine, at least not anytime soon. In a rather bizarre protest, Greenpeace has issued a bridge dangling and kayaktivists to delay Shell icebreakers in Portland, or rather, icebreaker. 13 Greenpeace activists staged a 2-day human blockade by suspending themselves from a bridge in Portland, Oregon, to prevent a Shell oil vessel from leaving for Alaskan waters. The Arctic-bound vessel got through after police intervened, arresting the campaigners. All protesters were eventually lowered into the Willamette River by the Coast Guard, according to Oregon State Police and Portland Fire and Rescue crews, and they were detained for alleged criminal trespassing and interfering with law enforcement, according to the reports. However, after the human blockade was removed and the icebreaker, which is central to the Royal Dutch Shell's plans for extracting oil in the Arctic, began to depart, so-called kayaktivists then tried to engage the vessel by rowing in its path. A second wave of protesters was then pushed away by officers in sheriff boats and rescue crews. The vessel was able to leave the harbor at around 6 p.m. local time. The Fennica, which is the name of the ship, is now safely on its way to Alaska and is going to join Shell's exploration fleet in the Chukchi Sea, which is near the Transocean Polar Pioneer, where the Transocean Polar Pioneer commenced initial drilling operations around 5 o'clock tonight, AKD, said Shell in a statement. Before lowering the dangling protesters, police asked whether they would come down voluntarily. Another activist from a local environmentalist group, Portland Rising Tide, took matters into his own hands and locked his neck with a bike lock to the Oregon Slough Railroad Bridge. Rescuers had to cut the lock to remove him from the bridge. The protester was then detained. Greenpeace claimed that the action was a success, saying, "We found that the blockade was successful," said Greenpeace spokeswoman Mary Nicole to GGW.com. "Climate change does present a real threat to everyone globally," she claims. Search efforts are continuing for a missing teen in Cleveland missing teen from Cleveland who went missing over in Colorado. It's been a full week now since a Cleveland teenager went missing in the mountainous desert of southern Colorado, and crews have yet to find any traces of him so far. In a recent post on Find Joe Keller, the Facebook page read, "Police have called off the search, but it has since been updated to reflect the opposite. The search is today continuing," they say. "We pulled in search teams from other areas of the state to help today, and the sheriff is planning search efforts to continue through the weekend," said Public Information Officer Linda Smith, who talked to WDEF News 12 over the phone. Last Thursday, Joe Keller, who's 19, of Cleveland, Tennessee, was reported missing after he became separated from his friends while he was running. They were on vacation in a rugged high desert and mountainous area of Conejos County in Colorado. So since last Friday, hundreds of people have been searching on foot and by horseback for Keller, while a rescue helicopter and plane searched by air. And they say that they've been very fortunate that a lot of people have been there to assist with this, because they do have a very small county, so the local resources are not quite sufficient for a search of that type. Search and rescue dogs have reportedly not been able to pick up Keller's scent either, and authorities said that they are not ruling out foul play by another individual. They're also considering the possibility that Keller may have been attacked by a mountain lion. They add that anything is possible. Now that a week has passed since he was last seen alive, the next question is whether or not authorities will soon change the mission from search and rescue to search and recovery. And the sheriff says that that's something he's going to have to defer to the sheriff, according to Smith. In the meantime, Keller's family continues to hold out hope by offering a $10,000 reward for information that leads to his whereabouts, according to these reports. So far, he's not been found, and it's unclear as of now what his situation is. So we don't know any more information about that, and we'll let you know more as soon as we find out here on Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240. A single car accident damaged a power pole in Chattanooga Avenue in front of the Crown Mill Village apartments and caused a power outage in the area. The vehicle, which was a white Nissan Sentra, was traveling northbound when it left the roadway and struck the pole. The driver was then transported to Hamilton Medical Center by ambulance. Chattanooga Avenue is closed between Matilda Street and Judson Street while the Dalton police are investigating the crash, and Dalton Utilities Works is going to be replacing the pole as well. At this time, the cause of that crash is unknown. But there was a crash nonetheless, and it appears to have damaged a power pole and taken out power for quite a while, and quite a few residents in that area. Police pulled a man from a burning house in Lafayette. Corporal Nick Terry and Officer Dusty Coker, who are members of the Lafayette Police Department, were on patrol early Friday morning when they noticed smoke coming from a home at 11 Simmons Street. On the scene, the officers determined that someone was inside, and they sprung into action. One grabbed a fire extinguisher from his patrol car in order to break through a window. The other then worked to get through a door of the 900-square-foot home. According to Lafayette Fire Chief Robert Bubsy Jr., the officers found 47-year-old homeowner on the floor, face down. And after the officers pulled him to safety, he was taken to a local hospital with heat injuries. He was responsive, but a condition has not been released, saying Bubsy says that their guys are all professionals and most of them are cross-trained, saying they'll tell you that they're just doing what anyone else should do, but they really went above and beyond. The cause of the fire has been ruled accidental, and investigators believe that it likely started with a chair, although the exact cause of the fire is currently unknown. A CPD officer who was wounded during a shooting, or the shooting that occurred on Thursday, has thanked a young fundraiser who set up a lemonade stand to help to raise money for Officer Pedigo's recovery. The Coast Guard has suspended the search for missing teens who went missing from Sunset Coast on Friday, or rather, the search is going to be ending sunset today, the Coast Guard says. However, Coast Guard Captain Mark Feder stressed that the case is not yet closed, saying that crews would go out again if something was found that could possibly be linked to the Florida teenagers. Austin Stefanos said Austin Stefanos and Perry Cohen are the two teenagers who went missing. Feder expressed that he had heartfelt condolences and that the case was excruciating and gut-wrenching. He also said, "I know those statistics will not ease the pain of the families, but I hope at some point in the future they can take solace in the fact that hundreds of people searched thousands of miles because we were committed to finding Austin and Perry," Feder said. The teens vanished last Friday after taking a 19-foot single-engine boat into the waters off of Jupiter, Florida for a fishing expedition. The boat was found 67 miles east of Ponce de Leon Inlet in Florida on Sunday. The Coast Guard has covered nearly 50,000 square nautical miles and a stretch that extended from the shore of Jupiter to 270 miles east of Savannah, Georgia. The boys' family said that they intend to continue a private search even after the Coast Guard halts its efforts. The teens have been described as experienced fishermen who spent a lot of free time at sea, but as of yet, they are still missing. A Marion County man is now facing federal weapons charges after, allegedly anyway, several rounds of ammunition were found in his home, along with several other interesting items. A search warrant was executed against his house in South Pittsburgh. Officers said that they smelled and observed marijuana, which was in plain view, and found the door ajar and McKissick asleep. The search turned up 7 pounds of marijuana, 15 grams of powdered cocaine, 117 Xanax tablets, 60 rounds of Winchester 9mm ammunition, and 24 rounds of NCDP ammunition, 3 rounds of Remington 9mm ammunition, and a bullet-resistant vest. Agents said McKissick has a felony drug conviction in Marion County and a federal conviction for acting as an accessory after the fact to an armed bank robbery in Pennsylvania. He was prohibited from being around guns and ammunition, according to these reports. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is also on Twitter, where you report the world decides. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click on the half off link for great deals. Hot News Talk Radio is saving you money. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are looking at the weather now, where it's about 84 degrees here in the Chattanooga area. 68 is the low for tonight. Saturday, 90 is the high. and 67 is a low. Sunday, 92 is the high and sunny. We're expecting it to be mostly sunny all the way into Wednesday of next week. And starting Thursday, it's going to be about 88 degrees for the high with a 40% chance of storms. So Thursday of next week, it looks like is going to be our rainy day, according to the weather report from our weather center here at Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240. You know, we've got a lot of great programming here on Hot News Talk Radio. Cowboy Up with Texas coming up in just a few minutes right here on Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240. He talks about the day's events from his own very country western style, you might say. He rides in on his horse every day, and he ties it up outside, and he comes in with his spurs a-jingle jangling, and he talks about the day's events right here on Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240. We also have the David Tool Show from 9 to 11. 11 to 12, we have Eric Judd with his show. 12 to 1 is my show, Digital Drive. We talk about technology and quite a bit more. Laura Ingram is on from 1 to 3, and from 3 to 5 is Sean Hannity. And what you're listening to right now is Hot News Live at 5 right here on Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com. If you've got a smartphone, then you can get the TuneIn Radio app for that, and then you can listen to us anywhere in the world, especially if you get up to your car speakers with Bluetooth. This is Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, TradeBank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation. 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
543 here at Hot News Talk Radio. Here's Mike Wood with Hot News Talk Radio's Fast Traffic Now.
Thank you, sir. Browns Ferry. We'll start there at Cummings Highway between Cummings and Kelly's Ferry Road with an accident with injuries right now. East 23rd at South Kelly. That's an accident. Shallowford at Noah Reed in the last few minutes. 24 East at Browns Ferry Road. Russell, accident there. Tunnel Boulevard at Wilcox Woods Lane. One there in the last few minutes. 75 North at 153. Still working that one from earlier this afternoon. Mike Wood, it's the traffic center here, of course. Hot News Talk Radio at AM 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
It's 543 here at Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Russell. Here's the weather. Looks like the temperature right now is about 84 degrees here in the Chattanooga area, and it's expected to stay that way for at least a little while longer. And then tonight we're expecting it to get down to about 66. So keep that in mind if you're going to be traveling. It is actually going to be nice and temperate today, although not overly so. And we're also expecting that it's not going to be raining until actually Thursday or Wednesday, I should say, of next week. That's Wednesday night of next week is when we're expecting it to start raining again. So the rest of the week, other than that, is actually going to be nice and warm, although not very wet at all. Saturday 90 is the high, Sunday 92 is the high, and Monday 91 is the high. And continuing into next week, I should say, temperatures are going to be in the lower 90s and upper 80s, with us expecting it to start raining sometime Wednesday night with a 40% chance of storms then. So keep that in mind if you're going to be traveling on Wednesday or Thursday. It's supposed to be quite a bit rainy there, and you might want to plan ahead for your commute, as traffic always seems to be much worse whenever it starts raining. This is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is also on Twitter, where you report the world decides. It's AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now if you go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click on the half off link for great deals. Hot News Talk Radio is saving you money. That's AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. A Red Cross volunteer who earlier pleaded guilty to using credit cards intended for disaster victims is now facing new federal charges after not reporting to federal prison. Kimberly A. Queen had been sentenced to serve 2 years, but she did not self-report on June the 19th as ordered by Judge Curtis Collier. The new charge is failure to appear. Ms. Queen has since been taken into custody and was ordered to be detained by federal magistrate Susan K. Lee. She was a volunteer for the Monroe County Red Cross chapter in early 2012 when an adult turned up several irregularities. Ms. Queen confessed to withdrawing funds from local ATMs in Monroe and McMinn counties in the name of the Red Cross. Ms. Queen has been ordered to submit a money order to the federal government for $28,275 in order to cover those losses, which she's alleged to have caused. A young man who was involved in an incident that led to a murder has now been given a diversion and given praise as well for testifying. A man who was involved in an incident that led to a murder has now been granted that. Criminal court judge Barry Steelman said that a conviction for facilitation of an aggravated robbery can be expunged for Dustin Hayes if he gets in no further trouble for 6 years. The judge says that they couldn't be dealing with 40 shootings a year in Chattanooga if people would come forward and do the right thing and tell the truth. He said that the state likely would not have gotten convictions against Ronald Cosper and Devontae Stoudemire in the death of small-time marijuana dealer Steve Mosley in 2012 without the cooperation of Hayes, who drove the pair to the scene of the shooting. At least that's what he's accused of doing. Cosper was convicted of murder and is now serving a life sentence. Stoudemire got 15 years to be served at 100%. Judge Steelman praised Hayes, who finished in Hickson High School, despite being homeless at one time, for his courage and integrity. He added, "I fear that too often in this community, murders go unpunished because people will not come forward." Judge Steelman noted that the nickname for Stoudemire is White Chalk. He said that referred to the chalk that's put down by investigators at murder scenes. Stoudemire was charged with a prior murder, but he was not convicted of that. I should say it was dismissed. The sentencing hearing included a testimony by a former Hickson High School teacher who started making sandwiches for Hayes when she learned that he was homeless. Hayes said that he and his drug addict mother lived in an abandoned house after his grandmother was kicked out, or his grandmother kicked the mother out, I should say. Mrs. Steve Swiger said of Hayes that he had no prior arrests and that he's better than good. She said that she and others are trying to get him a scholarship to a local college. She said that she still talks with him 4 or 5 times a week. Prosecutor Lance Pope, after hearing about the teacher helping the student over the years, said that he's humbled by your account and it makes him proud to live in this community. It was also testified by former Hickson High principal Tom McCullough that he had been helping Hayes as well. So it appears that this is a one-time thing for Hayes, and the charges will be expunged from his record if he is not in trouble for 6 years, according to these reports. 24 people have now been charged with TennCare fraud in a statewide roundup. Arrests of people statewide has now netted 24 people who are suspected of TennCare fraud. They've now been charged with that, so they're defendants in that case. The suspects are charged in various counties on numerous TennCare fraud charges, which are including underreporting income, claiming living out of state, failing to disclose resource information, and transferring property in order to qualify for TennCare, doctor shopping, presenting forged prescriptions, or selling prescriptions, all received using TennCare benefits. The Office of the Inspector General conducted a statewide roundup that concluded on Thursday, with special agents fanning out across the state to crack down on those who had an outstanding warrant for TennCare fraud. The roundup is part of a new approach to take people into custody soon after an indictment by a grand jury and to locate and arrest fugitives. And so OIG special agents, again, that's Office of the Inspector General, I should say. Special agents teams were all positioned in 3 grand divisions in East, Middle, and West Tennessee with a list of individuals who were wanted, along with identifying information and warrants. The toughest task was finding the people that they were trying to serve because so many had multiple addresses. However, eventually they did find them and they did serve them those warrants as well. Georgia police are apparently accused of posing as construction workers in order to nab texting while driving people, or people who are accused of texting while driving. Police officers over in Marietta, Georgia, went undercover as members of a construction crew to catch drivers checking a mobile device behind the wheel. Texting while driving is, of course, against the law in Georgia. The officers set up a busy intersection in Cobb County, which is, of course, the county that Atlanta is in, to get a closer look inside the vehicles, said Marietta police officer Nick Circadakis. And they say that what we've done here is we're able to put officers in the roads, so we're able to get close enough almost inside their cars so they can look down and see exactly what they're doing on their phones, he said. Marietta police insisted that even drivers stopped at a traffic light, as many of the targets of the undercover sting on Wednesday are subject to the state's laws. By not identifying themselves as officers, Circadakis said that the police can get a better idea of who is breaking the law. They also say it doesn't matter if you're stopped at a light or if you're on a public thoroughfare and facing the phone, then they're going to have a conversation with you, he said. Police said that many drivers pulled over for texting as they waited for the traffic light and did not know the details of Georgia's texting while driving law, which was established back in 2010. Tickets for the offense are $150 and 1 point on a driver's license, according to WSB-TV. The police said that the amount of distracted driving that occurs and at the times dire ramifications of such impairment justified their undercover tactics, they said. He says, I really think that this is DUI of the future. Impairment is still a problem, but this distracted driving is killing as many people as drunk drivers, he says. Some who are commenting on the story on social media wondered if a police officer in Georgia is even allowed to go undercover to issue traffic violations. James Lawrence Yergin Jr., who's a licensed traffic lawyer in Georgia, said in a forum on the legal advice website avo.com that police officers in Georgia are considered to be police officers 24 hours a day, whether they're on duty or not, saying if the officers came to court and testified that they saw you run 2 stop signs, then the judge will most likely believe them, he said in response to a question posed on the forum in 2011. Whether or not they were in a marked patrol car is irrelevant to the fact of whether or not you ran the stop signs. Georgia police officers, however, are allowed to text or operate devices while driving, in an interesting note. So Georgia police officers can text while drive, but regular residents of Georgia apparently cannot under Georgia state law. A car accident has caused a power outage in Dalton, with Dalton Power Company crews struggling to reestablish connections, or at least shuffling to reestablish connections. A single car accident damaged a power pole in Chattanooga Avenue in front of the Crown Mill Village apartments and caused a power outage in the area. The vehicle, which was a white Nissan Sentra, was traveling northbound when it left the roadway and struck a pole. The driver was transported to Hamilton Medical Center by ambulance. Chattanooga Avenue is closed between Matilda Street and Judson Street while the Dalton police investigate the crash and Dalton Utilities works to replace the pole. At this time, the cause of the crash is currently unknown. Police have pulled a man from a burning house in Lafayette and actually rescued the man from the house that was burning. Corporal Nick Terry and Officer Dusty Coker are members of the Lafayette Police Department. They were both on patrol early Friday morning when they noticed smoke coming from a home at 11 Simmons Street. Once they were on the scene, the officers then determined that somebody was actually inside, and they sprung into action. One grabbed a fire extinguisher from his patrol car in order to break through a window. The other worked to get through a door of the 900-square-foot home. According to Lafayette Fire Chief Robert Busby Jr., the officers found the 47-year-old homeowner on the floor face down. After the officers pulled him to safety, he was taken to a local hospital with heat injuries. He was responsive, but his condition has not yet been released. And Busby came out with a statement saying that our guys are all professionals and most of them are cross-trained. They'll tell you that they're just doing what anyone else should do, but they really went above and beyond, he says. The cause of the fire has been ruled to be accidental. Investigators believe that it likely started in a chair, although the exact cause of that fire is presently unknown. There is now a White House petition, I should say. Today's not a good day for me. White House petition on whitehouse.gov in order to honor the different servicemen who pulled their firearms, their personal weapons, and fired back on Mohammed Yusuf Abdulaziz on July the 16th. The petition, which presently has quite a few signatures so far, is asking the president to give the men who fired their weapons medals of bravery for saving lives during the attack. Investigators with the FBI confirmed that at least one service member inside the U.S. Naval and Marine Reserve Center on Amnicola Highway used a personal weapon to fire on Mohammed Yusuf Abdulaziz as the 24-year-old approached the building armed with an assault rifle and a handgun 2 weeks ago today, or 2 weeks ago as of Thursday. Abdulaziz would then go on to kill 4 Marines and a Navy specialist. The attack sparked a national debate about whether military personnel should be armed in military buildings on United States soil. Currently, Department of Defense regulations prohibit most service members from being armed on the, or rather in the U.S. during, or rather including most personnel at reserves and recruiting centers like the ones that Abdulaziz targeted in Chattanooga. Only service members who are acting as military police or guards are allowed to carry weapons. But in the days after the attacks, politicians and citizens immediately called for a change in policy to allow such service members to be armed. Governor Bill Haslam ordered the state's National Guard storefront centers to temporarily relocate into armories 6 days after the shootings. That's National Guard armories, according to these reports. United States Marines who were flying with unlicensed weapons have been detained in Vienna and sent home. 9 American Marines have now been arrested in Vienna's airport for carrying assault rifles and handguns on board a commercial airliner without any sort of proper clearance. They were on their way to Ukraine in order to take place in an exercise called Saber Guardian that began on July the 20th. The incident took place on July the 19th, but was only reported to the media about 2 weeks later. The servicemen who were traveling from Alaska reportedly had problems with a connecting flight at Vienna's Seychat airport, and they were asked to leave the transit area to rebook, according to Austrian Defense Ministry spokesperson Colonel Michael Bauer. He said that they were traveling on commercial airlines. And while they were having their luggage scanned, airport security spotted M16 rifles and pistols in their travel bags, not M16 pistols. That's not a thing. The servicemen had no permits allowing them to carry guns. Austrian police then arrested the Marines, who were then expelled from the country along with their weapons on a return flight bound for Washington. The incident took place accidentally, says U.S. European Command spokesperson David Westover to Sputnik, which is a news agency. However, Karen Kwiatkowski, who's a retired U.S. Air Force lieutenant colonel, said that the fact that the U.S. State Department attempted to get permits retrospectively immediately after the incident indicates that this is not how it was supposed to be done, she is claiming. A passenger on U.S. domestic flights must declare any weapons in his luggage, she pointed out. So the soldiers probably did not declare those weapons, possibly on purpose, thinking that they could either get away with it or they wouldn't have to go in the first place. She said that alternatively, they figured that they would be refused and would not be able to get there anyway, she says. Technically, this is a violation of not just the airline policy, but also potentially international law. Ukrainian Defense Ministry said earlier in July that the international military exercises Saber Guardian / Rapid Trident 2015, the U.S. soldiers were going to take part in, began on July the 20th and were planned to last through July the 31st. So it's just a little bit too late for them to take place and to take part in those exercises, I should say. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is also on Twitter, where you report the world decides. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now if you go to hotnewstalkradio.com and then click on the half off link for great deals. Hot News Talk Radio is saving you money. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Cowboy with Tex is coming up next here on Hot News Talk Radio. He's going to talk about the day's events from his own very Western perspective right here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. The temperature right now is about 84 degrees. 66 is what we're expecting for tonight. Saturday, 90 degrees. Sunday, 92. And Monday, 91. Going into next week, we're seeing temperatures in the low 90s and upper 80s, with it supposed to be raining Wednesday night and Thursday afternoon as well. So keep that in mind if you're going to be doing any traveling. It looks like next weekend is going to be quite rainy. That's your weather update from us here at the Weather Center. Now we're going to go do Cowboy Up with Tex right here on News Talk Radio.